Farage just painted a roundabout. I got all confused in my head, painted it white where it should have been red. Nigel, now my friends are laughing at me, and my neighbours think the Danes are coming to Clacton on Sea. Hi there, Tom here. Welcome to my 5-minute Friday video cast, this time being broadcast on a Saturday. Long story. Lots to cover this week, isn't there? So, first of all, Peter Mandelson. I remember being in a meeting with Mandelson a number of years ago, and you could tell from yards away that this was the kind of guy that you would not want to be left alone with. It's a personal view, and I appreciate it's completely subjective, unobjective, and it's partial. Certainly not impartial, but that's my take on it. The sooner he's out the way, the better. In fact, any of those architects of New Labour, which Thatcher famously said was her greatest victory, those of you that follow politics will know that. Thatcher famously told her deflated ministers after they had lost the election to Tony Blair that New Labour was the Conservatives' greatest achievement, and she was quite happy with them, and I think she had every reason to be, didn't she? So the world's gone Charlie Kirk mad this week, hasn't it? The death of anybody in such circumstances is a tragedy. However, can we put it in context, please? We're going to have a quick look at some stats here. I appreciate stats can say anything, but let's be open to what's being said here. The numbers, in a sense, don't matter, but the point I think is important. So we ask how many people die from starvation each day in the world, and the answer is around about 25,000. Preventable. Yeah. We ask how many people die from poor sanitation and unsafe water, and the answer is 7,000 per day. Yeah. Then we ask, of course, as we should, how many people die from gun deaths in the States, and the answers vary between just under 100 per day to over 120 per day. So the death of one individual should be a tragedy to the people who knew and loved that person, but I don't think in this case it should cause the sense of collective unrest and outrage that it has caused. And I say that because the organisation that this chap was the chief executive officer of, an organisation called Turning Point USA, has a pretty dirty agenda going on. One of its headlines is that big government sucks, right? This is a famous line that the neoliberal section of society in America peddles. Big government sucks. We don't want to be controlled by government. There's an irony in that, isn't there, when you see what's happening to them at the moment. But Turning Point is a sort of a mixture of religious zeal, entrepreneurial enthusiasm. It's all flashy. It's lots of lights. It's lots of show, isn't it? That's the thing when you can throw money at things, isn't it? Which is what the neoliberal agenda does incredibly well. The conservative agenda, let's call it that. And let's just look at some quick thoughts here. So if all those people coming out saying, it's what happened is a tragedy, and we've got lots of people posting lots of things on social media. I've got friends on Facebook who are saying, I agreed with most of what he said and blah, blah, blah. Let's just challenge that, if we may. Because what Turning Point stood for was minimal investment in social housing. You see, when you see the phrase big government sucks, what you're not shown is the flip side, or what's in brackets of that, which is big business doesn't suck, right? That's what they're saying. When they're saying we want small government, they're saying we want big business. Now, we in the UK have seen that does not work. Just look at the utility companies and what's been happening there. And if you think that business would have your interests at heart better than collective government, then that's debatable. So have a think about that one. I'm not saying you're right or you're wrong. I'm just saying have a think about that one. Remember the flip side of, if someone saying big government sucks, meaning lots of government, lots of expensive government, is that big business doesn't. Well, I think we all know it kind of does. If you give big business a free rein, it will do anything. Just look at the scandals that have emerged over the last years in terms of what big business has tried to get away with and is still trying to get away with. So what else would you be in favour of if you're a fan of Turning Points? Well, you wouldn't want public healthcare. You wouldn't want the NHS, right? So if we look to the States and say, well, what does that mean? In the States, one of the leading causes of suicide are health bills. Yeah. And one of the actual leading causes of personal bankruptcy, of which there are about 500,000 personal bankruptcies every year in the USA, the leading cause of that is for paying for health bills. Yeah. So if that's the kind of future and kind of country that you want, where people are taking their own lives because they can't afford to pay for their healthcare, and people are going personally bankrupt and losing everything they have to pay for their healthcare, then Turning Point is the organisation for you. Yeah. It just strikes me that I think what happens is we get caught up in something, don't we? And then off we go, and everybody's headlong without really thinking about what is going on. So if also, I think, by the way, it's quite interesting, some of the people on Facebook who are saying that they were supportive of Charlie Kirk and his work, blah, 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 blah. I don't imagine they've picked up a Bible for a very long time. That's another story, isn't it? On that note, I will quit while I'm ahead behind. Again, you decide. That's up to you. I hope you're having a good weekend. I hope you're managing to stay safe, trying to stay sane and solvent if you can. Ciao.